So my research project was on student learning and confidence gains in the graduate course, Mathematical Modeling in Cell Biology. Next slide, please. So I had three questions that I wanted to answer. So as students learned how to perform mathematical modeling and do some basic coding and learn the biological context for the math modeling, I wanted to know if this would improve their confidence in their math and programming skills, if it would improve their opinion of how useful math is in biology, and also if it would increase their understanding of general biology concepts. Next slide, please. So I developed 4 methods to answer those questions. So firstly, I used a concept inventory for general biology, which is supposed to measure your understanding of biological concepts without too much detail, which was important because of the 7 students in this class. 3 of them were from the engineering department, so I wasn't sure how much detail they would be able to recall from that. And I gave a pre-test at the beginning of the semester and a post-test at the end. And then also I made a survey that asked questions on a scale from 1 to 5 on how confident they were in various computational techniques and how important they thought math was to their research. Next slide, please. I also made some concept inventory questions that were specific to modeling case studies during the course. So after they got the background on the biological facts that they would be modeling, I gave them the pre-test. And then after they completed the modeling task, I gave them the post-test. And then finally, I asked some open-ended survey questions at the end of the semester to see if it would agree with the other measurements I got. Next slide, please. So I quantified my results using the formula at the bottom of the slide there to get the percent gain that's normalized for the possible improvement that they could have given their performance on the pretest. So for the survey, their confidence and their opinion both increased by about 70%. Next slide, please. And their learning gains for general biology and for the specific concept inventory questions was smaller. It was around 10%. For about a quarter of the general biology concept inventory questions, I had a full set of responses. So that was the blue bar with the S2 only, and then for the green bar, some students were missing the final week of class, so that's sort of a partial set of results. Next slide, please. So based on the opinion and confidence surveys, the students showed the large improvements, and they showed smaller improvements for their understanding of general biology questions and for questions specific to the situations that they modeled. Next slide, please. And for the open-ended survey, it seemed to agree with the other measurements that I got, although it did kind of highlight a little bit of issues with misunderstanding the questions. So for this question, do you think experimental design is affected by the knowledge of math modeling? The student said no, because they thought that you would still need to do experiments, which wasn't the intention of the question to ask if you didn't need experiments anymore. Next slide, please. And an example of an answer that was interesting. The question was, what were your previous methods to understand or explain a biological system, and do you think this will change now that you've done some modeling? And the student said that yes, they would need to be a lot more specific and quantitative when they thought about their system. And I think that although the focus of the open-ended survey was asking questions about their opinion of how useful the quantitative methods were and also their confidence, I think it would have been a good idea to have some questions about their learning, because the concept inventories, the results were pretty mixed, so I wasn't sure exactly what the issue was, if it was because of the way the questions were worded or if their learning gains really were that small. And that's all. Next slide, please.
Bill, I'm not sure your mic is on. We don't hear you.
Thank you, Kitch. Yeah, so we're on to questions. So either raise your hand or write on the whiteboard. And I guess, so Renee, it looks like there were some positive results in terms of confidence and opinion. So I guess sort of a two-part question. What's your big takeaway? Do you think including the math modeling really was successful in one sense, and what would you do differently if you were going to do this again?
I think the math modeling was pretty successful. A lot of the students had never done any sort of programming before, and none of them had experience with writing their own equations. So I thought that those are pretty impressive improvements, all things considered. And if I was going to do it again, I would definitely try to improve how conceptual the concept inventory questions were. Maybe just try to have a little bit of redundancy there in case of misunderstanding or poorly worded questions.
Okay, great. There's a question coming on the whiteboard. Was completing the TAR project useful to your own professional development?
Yeah, I think so. At the very least, in the sense that it kind of made me think about how I could, because I'm a modeler, so it kind of made me think about how I would talk about that with people who had never modeled before. And also, since these students were mostly experimentalists who weren't planning on focusing on modeling in the future, it's kind of interesting to see how having a little bit of experience with modeling helps them appreciate it more.
Great. Other questions? We've probably got time for one more question in here. So oh, here comes. I was going to ask one, but here comes one. What was the most challenging part of this project? And were there any surprises in the data?
I think the most challenging part was actually getting everybody to answer all the questions, mostly because people, I guess, skip class occasionally. Sometimes you have to. If you're in graduate school, you have to do experiments or something. And I personally was surprised by how much people's opinion changed and how many people in the open-ended survey said that they would use modeling to help them understand their experiments in the future. I guess I kind of thought maybe that would be a lot of extra work, but it seemed to be useful to them.